So one of the biggest things that I wanted to talk about with you was the Cutter Gauthier versus Matvei Michkov thing. So Cutter Gauthier got traded to the Anaheim Ducks in January of this past year for Jamie Drysdale and a second round pick in next year's draft. And the outrage from Flyers fans when it came out that Gauthier didn't want to play for Philadelphia, didn't talk to Briere or Jones in the World Juniors, was absolutely unbelievable. I remember when Drysdale first came to town. And I think even too, like, I made a video on it, you made a video on it. I think I even tagged you on it and said,
Yeah.
enjoy Cutter Gauthier.
Yeah.
And I remember Drysdale's first game. Kid got an assist on a goal. And when they said his name, like, it said assisted by Jamie Drysdale, that building exploded. Like, I wish I was there for that game. It was freaking unbelievable. And it seems like the guy has just become a Philly icon within, like, the first game of him playing. So, when the trade broke, what were your thoughts on it, and what was your instant reaction? Because you like
Shock.
Drysdale, right? You were,
Drysdale wasn't, I mean, injury wise, I mean, the kid just, it couldn't catch a break. So
yeah,
it
I'm
really
here too.
felt, it felt like he really never had a chance to, which was nobody's fault. I mean, you can't predict injuries. It just is what it is. But it really felt like the kid never really found his groove here. Which is a shame because he was a fan favorite. I mean, there's people still upset that he's not on the team anymore. And the reaction, first of all, the fact that they kept that trade so under wraps is the biggest
Hmm.
shock to me. The fact that it was the Ducks and the Flyers accounts that broke the trade. Like,
Yep,
Bob
I was shocked.
McKenzie, Pierre LeBrun, even Saravalli, who lives in Philly, had no knowledge of it. Which, or if they did, they didn't break it. Which, knowing Saravalli, he leaked the entire Seattle expansion draft. If he had known
He
that
did.
was
I
happening,
remember that. I remember that. I
he
hate.
would have
Oh
leaked
my
it.
god.
So I had to double take. I had to double take because I obviously knew who Cutter Gauthier was, but I was looking and I'm like, wait, who did we trade from? And I had to look again that Jamie Drysdale. I was like, yo, like
Oh,
it was one of those things you just don't expect it. Nobody saw it coming. But then you sit down and you think about it and you're like, it makes sense. When a talent like that comes on the trade market and you have a player that you can offer in trade
hmm
for him, like the whole situation too, like I did a whole video breaking down the timeline and everything, and obviously we don't know what exactly happened. We don't know what it was that changed the course of Cutter Gauthier and his feelings towards being a Flyer. But and you could argue, like, was it handled the most maturely? Obviously not. The Flyers were pretty left in the dark in a lot of regard. And I don't think it's a bad thing that players, having a say over and having some control over where they play and where they want to play. Obviously, as a young guy, that there's that Flyers, there's that old school mentality where you have to earn your stay, kind of earn, having a say like that. You go to the team you're drafted to and things like that. And obviously, it's tough to judge. Like, was it handled the best? Obviously not. But it's really tough to judge off because we don't know what happened.
yeah.
Something happened that changed the tides here, and it wasn't torts. It wasn't, you're checking off all the things that it wasn't from what, Cutter has said, and he's done everything but say exactly what it was. So,
Yeah.
that aside, I mean, as far as, when you sit down with the trade, you're like, you know what? The Ducks have a lot of talent on the blue line. The one thing they were missing from their draft stock was a pure goal scorer, guy that loves to shoot the puck,
That's
and
what
Cutter
Cutter is.
Gauthier is that. So
He had a
you're
crazy World Juniors
right,
score.
right,
So
and you're a guy like Pat Verbeek, and you see him come to market that he's available, and you've got young guys to offer. Might as well,
yeah.
might as well. And Jamie's talent, Jamie's experience speaks for itself. You can look at the things he's able to do. Amazing skater. Watching him, I loved watching him play hockey when he was healthy, and he was just coming into his. It really was a shame that he was injured not last season but the season before, because that really was the year you were going to see him really take that next step into an NHL defenseman. Like, he was going to be that guy. So as disappointing as it was to see Jamie go, obviously getting a guy like Cutter Gauthier in return, like, you got to be excited about it. I remember getting a lot of hate online because I said that, hey, as far as, Pat Verbeek saw a guy that was available that he wanted, he went out and got him. Like, he improved the prospect pool. He saw a need. He addressed it with a position that the Ducks are well stocked at the blue line. So, they could afford to let go of a guy like Jamie. And I got met with so many subtweets, so much hate. Like, we're allowed to be upset about Jamie Drysdale, okay? Like, we're allowed to be hurt about our favorite player leaving or someone we love, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, grow up. Like, I don't care. Cry me a river, respectively. Like, yes, like, be upset. You're entitled to your feelings about your favorite player leaving. Trust me. I remember Corey Perry getting bought out by the Ducks, all right? I wasn't happy about it either.
I remember that time, too.
But I got over it, all right? The sun will rise in the morning. Jamie Drysdale is not dead. He's just across the country playing on a team. Hey, and I love that, he went to a franchise that seemingly, I mean, the reaction, I love that he was welcomed with open arms. And although, it was from, on the end of, calling him quit, with the guy, saying he didn't want to play there. So you're like, oh, we're going to embrace this new guy. Hey, might as well. Like, I will defend the Ducks fans and the fan bases as well. There's just no comparison between Southern California fans and Philadelphia sports fans. Like,
well, we're insane. So that's all I'm going to say to you.
It's one of those situations where, like, Philly, and that's why I always respect about Philly sports fans. I love the passion. I love the enthusiasm. But if you suck, if you're not doing your job, they will let you know. There's accountability in Philadelphia, and I have always respected that. So, I mean, Philly fans get a lot of heat. I mean, sports-wise, Eagles fans, everybody get all across sports, they get heat. But I, as somebody that loves sports, I love the passion. I love the dedication. I love the Go Birds, wherever you go. I love that. I wish there was a thing out here. It never will be. But if I told somebody, if I went to somebody, I was like, go Ducks, they'd be like, leave me alone. Like, what? Or they think
this about sports. I will say this about sports. Our two baseball teams, the Phillies and the Dodgers, are like, they're up there first and second in the league.
They are. The Dodgers make me want to. The Dodgers make me want to throw my head into a wall, but they're great.
The Phillies are kind of falling off right now. The fall off needs to be studied from them. So
that's the thing with baseball. That's the thing with baseball. It's such a long season where, like, you remind yourself, hey, we're having a really good season, but then there's like the moments, like the Dodgers blew a 5-run lead to the Padres last night and lost. Yep. So there's moments like that where you're like, I hate this team so much, and then the next day they win. You're like, welcome back. But yeah, there's a bit of playoff history too between the Phillies and the Dodgers that I'm not too fond of, but that's all right.
So I want to put something into perspective here for you. So the Flyers and the Ducks only play twice in a year. That's just how the NHL schedule is.
Yeah.
I think the first time they play is in Anaheim. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it's the first time they play is in Anaheim, which, again, it is kind of a big game because it's Cutter Gauthier's first game against his former team. There's the thing there with that. But it's when Cutter comes to town is when things get really interesting. So I want to put something into perspective here for you.
January 11th?
It's around there, yes. I think it's January 11th. So the home opener, I'm looking at TickPick right now. The home opener for the Flyers versus Canucks is $84 for the cheapest ticket right now.
Okay.
I'm sure it'll get cheaper as it comes along, obviously.
Yeah.
You look through a lot of these, $50, $55. You see the Rangers come to town, $112. Utah Hockey Club, $66. Flyers versus Ducks, cheapest ticket, $103. So, Flyers fans are prepared to come in and boo this guy. And it's funny, too, because, you only see that for, the big teams. You got the Rangers here, $110. Flyers versus Penguins is always a great game. That's $110 as well. But Flyers-Ducks, if Cutter stayed on Philly and, that never happens, that game would not cost as much as it is.
No.
And I think it's because it's in Philly on a Saturday night. That game's going to be very interesting, and I'm very excited.
They did that on purpose. They made sure it was a Saturday night, too.
Yes, they did. The NHL, I'm surprised our home opener wasn't against the Ducks. I'm not going to lie to you, because that would have been one hell of a game.
I'm glad they did. I hate when there's a big game and or like a big like oh like someone's return, someone's this, and it's so early in the season. It's like home first week. You're like, build up some momentum here. Come on, like
Exactly.
build up the suspense. Let's see, let these two guys, especially you talk about, the Michkov, Gauthier, the Calder race comparison. Let's see. By January, we're gonna get a pretty good picture
We
of
are.
where those two stand as far as the Calder race goes and where they rank. And with Matt, obviously Celebrini needs to be. The Calder race is gonna be interesting this year.
Yes, that's going to
one
be great too.
I would argue even more interesting. This year wasn't that interesting. We knew it was going to be Connor Bedard, but this year I think, especially with Michkov coming into the fold, it's pretty wide open. I'm very intrigued to see what happens. But I'm sure there's going to be extra security at the gates to make sure no batteries come in, no whatever else.
Signs. Me and my podcast partner, who's also on this pod, he's a Flyers fan. He's also a big Trevor Zegras fan, ironically enough. It sucks he couldn't join us here today. But we have been talking about it, and we talked about it last episode too when Michkov came over. We were saying, like, he lives in Winnipeg. He was going to make the trip down and meet me down here for this game so we can just boo the hell out of Cutter. So if you want to come too, and we can have some fun, you can come down and we can boo Cutter Gauthier.
I'm not booing him, but I've looked at it. It's definitely on my list in terms of games to travel to. So I'm all for rivalries. We're in an age where rivalries are dead. They're not what they used to be. Like, it's just there's no bad blood. There's no intensity around them anymore. And I don't know if it's scheduling. I don't know what, I think you can blame a lot of things on why rivalries just kind of aren't at the height that they were, but I am all for it. Like, give it to me. I want blood. I want hatred. I want it. So I'm all for this, especially like an unconventional one like the Flyers and the Ducks.
Yeah, especially like two teams that like play each other like twice a year. Once
Twice
in their
a
own
year,
building.
yeah.
So like it's just it's gonna be a great game. Imagine in a few years too down the road they'll be meeting up in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Let's speak it into existence, friend. Let's speak it into existence.
Let's make it happen.
I would love nothing more.